Oh, it's great to get up in the morning, especially if you're a news reporter. You've absolutely no idea what the day holds in store for you. This is Jane Kinghorn, on her way to work. Work is in the heart of Brighton at number 1 Marlborough Place. The radio station's been here since 1968. If it's an early start for Jane, it's even earlier for presenter David Legg.
Good morning, this is county-wide local radio for East and West Sussex from the BBC. It's Tuesday the 26th of April and it's now 5:30.
It's Radio Sussex here. Anything happening overnight?
It's an hour before the first news bulletin of the day.
Lovely.
Jane Kinghorn and James Cove are the early team in the newsroom, fixing last-minute interviews, taking national and world news from the ever-clattering teleprinters, making calls to the emergency services.
OK, well, thanks for your help. Bye now. James, I've just spoken to the fire brigade and there's a big fire up in Preston Circus and they think some people are trapped. They've got 4 or 5 crews there. So would it be worth going on?
It's probably worth getting someone out on.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
I'm going to get the radio car.
Yeah.
Once he finishes his own programme, David Legg will be at the controls for Good Morning Sussex.
Well, we've got this fire going on. Jane's going out to that, so you could be getting a bit of radio car calling up, so if you watch out for that.
Yeah.
Got Sussex Police, that 999 thing from last night, the report.
Right.
David Rose is doing the Eastbourne elections today.
Stuart McIntosh is the presenter of Good Morning Sussex, the most popular breakfast-time programme with listeners in the county. As the minutes tick by, he's trying to come to grips with the demands which will be made of him in his 2¼ hours on air. Live interviews, news reading, weather and travel updates, and a good deal more. Stuart and David have to be in complete harmony in a programme which is timed to the second.
All right, OK. Thanks to David Legg with Daybreak. It's 6:30. Good morning, Sussex. This is Stuart McIntosh. Today with the team, Jane Kinghorn, James Cove. At the sports desk, it's John Lees. On the technical side, it's David Legg. Smoke is still belching into the
It's
air.
a tall, thin building, 1 Marlborough Place, and that means the studios have to be stacked one above the other. Many programmes come from a single studio, courtesy of a one-man band. The producer is his own presenter and technical operator too. But Good Morning Sussex is too hectic and complicated for that. Material is arriving incessantly on the telephone and from Radio Sussex studios scattered throughout the county. So, while Stuart gets on with the presentation, David is a floor above. They communicate through headphones, and they can also see each other on small television screens. There are often last-minute, even last-second changes, but the presenter has to keep calm.
1 minute to go. It's 7:15. The travel news. British Rail tell us that the trains are OK this morning. The buses, the planes and the ferries are also running well today. It's time for Thought for the Day. Joining me again today is Betty Malkai. Morning, Betty.
Good morning, good morning. It is, of course, in the nature of pendulums that they swing. Yet it seems to me that the pendulum of human behaviour in our society has perhaps swung too far from the rather grim, rigid, hypocritically narrow rules of the Victorian era to the present permissiveness.
Hello, Stuart. It's Jane in the radio car. Can you hear me?
Hello, Jane.
Right, I'll give you some level. This is the level I'll be speaking at. Fire investigators are expected here within the next half hour. Is that OK?
Yeah, that sounds fine. You'll be doing it from there, OK? Yeah, no, the pumps aren't too noisy in the background. If you stay just about where you are, right? OK, stand by then. You're listening to Good Morning Sussex from the BBC. Well, as you heard earlier in the news, there's a serious fire in Brighton today. At the scene at the moment is our reporter, Jane Kinghorn.
Forensic scientists are expected here in the next half hour. The cause of the fire still isn't known, although police say they are treating it as suspicious. With me is Station Officer Colin Finlay. Can you tell me exactly what happened?
We've just brought the fire under control, and we've got reason to believe that the fire is of doubtful origin, and we're getting our fire investigation team here, and the scenes of crime police investigation team will also be here very soon.
BBC Radio Sussex, it's 8:30.
the wonders of modern technology, a strange thing happens at this time of the morning. While the rest of the county enjoys another 15 minutes of Good Morning Sussex and then tunes into Julian Clegg, listeners on medium wave in eastern Sussex settle down to their very own programme from this studio in Guildridge Road, Eastbourne.
Good morning and welcome to the 258 Alternative with me, Angela Davies. Well, I've been presenting the programme for 3 weeks now and I'm beginning to miss a decent breakfast, so I've sent Alistair Monk along in search of one. We'll be finding out if he's found it later on. You're going to be tasting the efforts of those chefs, trainee chefs, a bit later on.
Fine.
And we'll come back and join you and see what you think of it.
You certainly can, yes. I've got some chefs to speak to and some waiters as well.
We look forward to speaking to you later. Alistair Monk at Eastbourne College of Arts and Technology tasting breakfast. Oh, my stomach's rumbling. The time's coming up to 9 minutes to 9, and that's time for a look in the diary at what's on today. Just 2 items this morning. First, a coffee morning with stalls at Abbeyfield House.
Our East Sussex studio gives a special service to Hastings, Eastbourne and the Wealdon and Rother districts. It's manned by 3 producers and secretary receptionist Schenkel Armit. What Eastern Sussex has today, we hope other areas will have tomorrow. It depends, of course, on money, that small share of the BBC licence fee which comes to Radio Sussex.
Countywide Radio on Thursday the 28th of April. The Radio Sussex News at 9 with James Cove.
In the P&O ferry dispute at Dover, there are about 200 pickets at the dock, and once again they've been joined by a sea of crew. They've been bussed across the picket line, accompanied by management, but turned back once the coach had stopped. The Sea League men say they support their P&O colleagues because they believe their employers will soon adopt the same strategy as the P&O company. Later today, the National Union...
That was Brighton, just checking that we got in together all right.
Split-second timing once again. Not easy when one presenter's in Eastbourne, the other at a railway station.
Sussex seemed to arrive from the Lavender line and we couldn't go on a train journey without some passengers. So good morning. Morning. We have some passengers, our winners of our writing competition. Let's say hello to the Dadswells first of all, Esther and Robert. Hello, Esther. Hello.
At Radio Sussex, we're great believers in getting out and about. You'll find us at shows, farms, racetracks, churches, schools, factories, anywhere we can catch people being themselves in their own surroundings. It's a privilege which only local radio presenters enjoy, meeting their listeners face to face.
I'll put that onto our panel of experts after 10 o'clock. Nice to meet you. Let's move on. Now, we've got the trolley song.
Here's Julian in his element, almost bowled over in fact, and certainly all steamed up. On occasions like this, a presenter gets really involved with the people he meets, though he can never forget that ticking clock.
For the day, Betty Mulcahy again.
It's approaching 10 o'clock. The morning conference begins by assessing the day so far.
And then we had about the hotel in Hastings, which has had £2.5 million spent on it.
Which sounds rather good.
Yeah.
I thought you did that well, actually. But how many beds did it say? Because they're still very short of beds at Hastings, aren't they?
The Hastings bed stay.
I thought on that note, considering it was a boring story, it came out as a... It hasn't even opened until, what, Friday? Well, it's just a boring story. It's a hotel opening, but I thought it sounded okay, so...
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't say how many beds, anyway.
The meeting goes on to preview the day ahead. It's a chance for news producers and programme makers to swap ideas. Out in the field, reporters are already at work. David Rose has another Hastings story to cover. The launching of a new lifeboat. You can't do justice to an event like this by inviting someone into a studio. You have to be there with a tape recorder to capture the atmosphere. Once he's finished his interview, David will hurry back to the Eastbourne studio, edit the tape and send it by a landline to the newsroom in Brighton. He'll type a script for it and send that on the telephone or by telex. One more contribution for tomorrow's Good Morning Sussex. It's a busy thoroughfare, our reception area at Marlborough Place. It's where you come to pick up a Radio Sussex newspaper, to fill in a What's On form, perhaps to buy some of our goodies, books, cassettes, mugs, fun bugs and the rest. Maybe you have a programme idea, or you'd like to make a record dedication. Or you may come looking for advice.
It's Debbie from Helpline here. just back from a week's holiday, which is rather nice.
Our helpline answers the needs both of individuals and organisations by giving advice and making appeals on the air. In fact, the phone lines at Radio Sussex are always busy. When there's a competition, when there's a consumer phone-in, there just aren't enough lines.
I'm wondering if a resident... Yeah. Yeah, okay, thanks. Hello, Roland Myers.
It's nearly 11 o'clock and final preparations are underway for the Sussex Scene programme. There's to be a phone-in with the Chief Constable of Sussex, Roger Birch, and someone is getting in early.
Okay. Hello? Yes, can I help? Yes, that's right. Between 12 and 1 o'clock.
And you're listening to Sussex Scene with me, Roland Myers, and Julian Clegg. And our pleasure now to welcome into our studios Roger Birch, the Chief Constable of Sussex. A reminder that our phone lines remain open for the next 50 minutes or so on Brighton 570057. Should you have a question, or indeed if you have a point of view that you'd like to put to the Chief Constable. Well, can we talk to John now in Sussex? And John, I know you wanted to talk also about policing conferences, but could I ask you to bring us your point now about the breath test?
Yes, of course. Good afternoon to you, Chief Constable.
Good afternoon.
I would like to go back to your Christmas programme of drink driving, where I think there are many cases of your officers being a little overzealous. And I would like to instance you a case of a nursing sister coming off duty from Eastbourne General Hospital in the small hours, who was breathalyzed 3 times in 5 miles. Now, I don't think that's a case of being overzealous.
If she was stopped and required to take a breath test, then the officers must have had some very positive reason for doing that, because the only conditions on which we're empowered by law to require a breath test is if we have reason to believe that the driver has alcohol in their body, if they committed a moving traffic offence, or if they've been involved in an accident.
Meanwhile, back in the newsroom, Jane and James are still on shift and working towards the lunchtime news bulletin.
It's 1 o'clock. You're listening to County-wide radio for East and West Sussex from the BBC. The Radio Sussex Lunchtime News with Jane Kinghorn and James Cove.
Good afternoon. First, the headlines. As the ferry dispute worsens, it's reported...
And he still sounds wide awake. Apart from operating the controls for the news, Mike Bradshaw is in close touch with Barry Johnston, who's about to present the consumer programme Sussex Standard, not from the studio upstairs, but from the Radio Sussex kitchen.
And in Sussex, prison officers at 4 open prisons say men will soon refuse to work at weekends unless more staff are recruited. That's the Radio Sussex News with the time at 1:10.
He always takes it on a breath just before the last bit, and I just hear a click.
And that was Jack Payne and his orchestra with Happy Days Are Here Again. Barry Johnston up in the kitchen. Put that one aside, I don't want anyone from the newsroom getting that after the programme. Now that's our rhubarb and strawberry cloud.
Yes.
But meanwhile, the paprika pork with pasta.
Yes, the paprika pork with pasta has finished cooking now. It's cooked for about 15 minutes.
Yes, you can't talk about doing this, rather delicate manoeuvre.
Yes, I'm a bit of a clumsy cook at the best of times.
Hello, look, yeah. Wait, no, it's there.
Now, you don't have to be mad to work here, but as you'll see, it helps.
Che sarà mi fita? Fantastic, fantastic, as it happens.
That's Lee Orvis in the striped shirt, Ian MacDonald is aide-de-camp. They're choosing the records for Lee in the afternoon. And it seems they're looking for something to dance to.
nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Say no more, say no more. Enough clues there. We're looking for a name, and indeed that gives you the first 2 letters. This afternoon, Sounds for Found, it comes up at 20 to 4. And if you think your set's just gone strange, it's not. That's our Sounds for Found for this afternoon. It does start at 20 to 4, and your task to tell us exactly what you think it is. I reckon it's going to go straight away. Then again, when I say that, I'm usually always wrong. Before that, though, 20 past 3, another Crack the Code. And today's Fab 4 is a birthday one. It's from Judith Bird of Bexhill-on-Sea.
Well, Sussex have won the toss here on a glorious day at Hove, and they're going so well this year. And
John Lees reporting from the county ground at Hove. We're strong on sport at Radio Sussex.
Cricket. Sussex have already won 2 of their competitions. They won the Sunday League match here against Somerset. They also beat them in the Championship. They don't have a particularly good record in the Benson and Hedges Cup, but who knows, having started the way they have, every indication that they may play well here today, perhaps get off to a good start in this competition, and that certainly would make a change. Paul Parker, the man in form, already this season he's had innings of 101 not out, 90...
One averagely busy day at BBC Radio Sussex, but not every day follows the same pattern. Here are a few of our special events.
OK, so finally, let's catch up on the total for this 1987 two-wheel appeal. Head of Mathematics down in the basement, Tony Lee, what is the total so far?
Well, it's a magnificent total. It's £6,516.
That is splendid. Thanks ever so much, Sussex.
That is marvellous. Thank you very much indeed to all the riders and bikers who supported the appeal this year. And most of all, thank you to you at home for calling us and pledging all that money. It really is tremendous. Here's to next year's appeal. Have a super Christmas from me, Julian Clegg.
And from me, Roland Myers. Thanks ever so much.
Have a good 1988. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This is Stuart McIntosh. I should really say good evening, Sussex. I'm here until 9 o'clock looking after you and looking after children in need and trying to provide you with some incentive to provide money for the children in need.
I'm Barry Johnston and I'll be with you from 9 tonight. By then we hope to have raised many more thousands of pounds from around the county, and we'll also be linking up with our studios and with our 3 radio cars across Sussex.
Now, if I said, who's this man, do you think that would help a little bit?
Yeah, it might give him a clue.
It's Roger Daltrey. Now, you've given up all this pop music business, really, haven't you?
More or less, yeah. But saying that, I think that it's the Who's 25th next year, so we might be doing a celebration something. I'll tell you what, you won't believe this, but I am the world's worst pinball player. I mean, I get on those machines and it's absolute disaster.
Really?
I mean, if you've got a prize for low scores, I will win every time.
So there's a chance that if somebody wants to
and I really do try.
Well, good evening. This is BBC Radio Sussex. It's Children in Need Night. We have, well, thousands of people involved in Children's in Need here on BBC Radio Sussex. Nationwide, of course. We've got television crews and hundreds of staff working, all for Children in Need. BBC Television and Radio given over to the whole appeal tonight.
Yeah, there's very slight tendency to ring if she
Our
moves.
chief engineer, David Cox, responsible for many an outside broadcast.
We were probably the only part of the BBC some years ago that actually in this theatre took note of the fact that it was National Arts Day.
Ivan Howlett on the left and Keith Slade, who've devised and produced several highly praised entertainments over the years. There have been, for example, celebrations of the careers of Henry Hall and Irving Berlin.
Remember this, a kiss is just a kiss, a sigh is just a sigh.
And on the 20th birthday of BBC Radio Sussex, February the 14th, 1988, a Valentine's Day special, which included the singing of Marion Montgomery.
When two lovers woo, they still say I love you, and that you can rely. No matter what the future brings, as time goes by. never out of date.
Among the cast that evening, recalling Valentine's past, actress Kate O'Mara.
Lupercal, who charmed all the nymphs in Arcadia with the music of his pipes.
Pan, with the devilish face and cloven hoof.
Lupercalia, the early spring feast of youth.
Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove that hills and valleys, dales and fields, woods or steepy mountain yields.
Michael Checkland, the BBC's Director General, was among those who enjoyed the show at the Gardner Arts Centre at Sussex University. There's our Anna Benstead and John Lees. We've taken our special events all round the county over the years.
On to the second part of our programme, which will be a 1-hour recording to be broadcast on August Bank Holiday Monday.
This one was at the Hawth in Crawley, the first concert to be held at the new Arts Centre, and every seat was taken. Why does a radio station mount concerts, publish books, run a helpline? We exist, of course, primarily to broadcast, but we've become, these 20 years and more, a part of the Sussex community. At the Hawth, our programme included local barbershop singers and our very own Radio Sussex Big Band. So big that our West Sussex producer Ian Collington had a little difficulty competing.